Welcome to Adventures in Glass with Doug. Been a while since I posted my last video, a couple of months actually, and I want to update you on what's happening in my new studio and what we have planned. But today I've got two things we're going to do. One is to show you how to make some smaller pieces for tabletops, tabletop totems, glass art. And then I want to make a repair, and I'll show you what's going on in the workshop. So let's get to it. Here you see a couple examples of what I've done in the past for tabletop totems. They're not big. They may only involve 2 or 3 pieces. But when you put 1 or 2 of these together on a table or near a window, it can be really very spectacular, and it can, you know, play around with the light and colors and that sort of thing. So these are some examples of what I've done. Here's some pieces that we're going to try to use today in our totems. So I have a cluster of these pieces that I'm going to try to use in a grouping. I have these pieces that we'll put together in a sculpture, and then I have this group of blue and clear glass. What I have to do is wash those up. They still have their price labels and some other stickers on them, and they've got dirt and dust, so I need to get that cleaned up. And one of the things you want to use too, if you have stickers on them, price stickers or otherwise, and you can't manage to get the goo off easily, there are some things called goof off that you can usually get. I found small jars of it or small bottles of it at dollar store. You can check there. Before we get started with that, let me show you what I have to repair. Give me a moment here and we'll clear off this area and talk about the repair I have to make. I had a bird bath that I videoed building not long ago, and it's been doing really well out in the garden. I moved it recently because I had to weed around it, and in moving it, it came apart. And while that sometimes happens when my silicone seal breaks, or if there's been some damage to it from water or ice or something of that sort, I couldn't figure out why this one separated, because there was no silicone adhesive left on the top and the bottom of these pieces, and it didn't make sense then that, you know, it wasn't that my silicone had given way. But I had to think back as to what the piece was before I used it. This globe part, along with this stem, were really a kind of hurricane on a stand that I purchased as one piece. So this would have been the base, the stem, and then the globe for a big candle or something. So evidently, the way the glass was fused together, the globe and the stem, didn't hold up and separated. But I can find no evidence really of any sort of adhesive or glue. I would assume they would have used some sort of epoxy. So we're going to make sure that these 2 edges are nice and clean, those 2 surfaces, which I believe they are. A little something here. And then we'll assemble those and let those dry. I'm going to do those off to the side, so let me reorient my camera. What I recommend using is 100% silicone for these projects. You get a reasonably fresh tube, because the silicone, if you do have a problem with it, or if a piece happens to break, and that happens, it's happened to any number of my pieces, they get knocked over, or the wind sometimes will get a few of them to crash. The hanging ones will get banged into. Mostly I've had really good luck with everything, but accidents do happen. And so the silicone allows you to bring those two pieces apart, clean off the old silicone, and then re-glue them. Okay, the tricky part of this is, unfortunately, sometimes when you put a lot of silicone on, it kind of swims around a little bit. It's kind of loosey-goosey, so you have to be careful. And this is a large piece that's going to be on a small stem, which is why I'm moving it off to the side here to make sure, hopefully. Now the noise you hear is I put glass beads in there. If you are a new visitor to my website and my YouTube videos, welcome. I hope you can get some good ideas. Look at the other videos, I've got plenty of them, and read the explanations and the description to find where you can locate some of the supplies that I use and recommend. If you're a regular subscriber and follower of my videos, welcome back. You know that I've been talking about a new workspace. We moved into a new home site, and I've got a great workspace here, but it's not ready yet. I want to get it finished off a little bit better over the workshop table here. I do have better storage for my growing inventory of glass, and you'll see these are a lot of the projects that I've moved over from our other location. Some have been out in the yard, some were inside, some were on the deck, and I've got a few repairs to make, which we'll do along the way also. But it's a little better organized, and I certainly have a little bit more space to spread out, do my work, and do the videoing. So you're going to see some changes as we go, but for now, at least I can video and tell you a little bit about what's going on and how I can help you create some great glass sculptures. Okay, let me get back to where we were. Keep in mind that if you're going to create some of these tabletop totems, or any of the totems that I do, it always is much more interesting when you can take pieces and align them in a way that doesn't look recognizable. For instance, this piece would have been a bud vase. I suppose this was a type of candy dish, then a little kind of a bean pot, and of course my glass marbles. So when you orient them, usually upside down in a different way, it isn't as recognizable. You don't look at it and say, oh yeah, there's a nice little bucket or a glass bowl, or the candlesticks are upside down, that sort of thing. And sometimes you can take, it's not always easy to find glass toppers, garden sculptures, or I mean glass sculptures and things to add to them, but sometimes you can find those, and I find that sometimes that kind of makes or breaks your design, and sometimes it's the hardest thing, for me anyway, is to how do you end your totem on the top. So keep in mind that what you want to do when you build these totems is to place things in unexpected directions or arrangements, so that you don't look at it and say, oh yes, I know what that is. So let's get started with some of these tabletop pieces that I've been talking about. You should be able to find interesting thrifted glass at places like Goodwill, some of the other thrift shops, but it's kind of hit or miss. These days I think a lot of people are trying to do things with thrifted glass. But if you persist, and in my case, I've gone on Tuesdays when seniors get 25% off, and there are, if you understand how Goodwill works, there are color days, meaning if you find something with a color tag of the day, they are often 50% off. So you can sometimes get some deals. All right, so we do. This piece, we're going to use a base of a plate. We're going to take this candle votive and our silicone adhesive, run it around the rim, put them together. If you're a regular, you know that I use this turntable, which really is a big help when you're trying to make sure that everything is sealed all the way around, that it's balanced. It really helps. It helps you a lot. And you know, I've said this before, glassware is imprecise. It may look like it's just about perfect, but the top rim and the bottom generally are not exactly parallel. You might not notice that if it's a drinking glass or a vase that you're using somewhere, but when you start adding pieces on top, you find out pretty quickly that, oops, that doesn't look level, that's off a little bit, and there's sometimes not much you can do about it because it may be a little skewed to one side. But sometimes you can allow for that a little bit, and you could kind of adjust as you go. Okay, our next piece is going to be here. I'm going to do a little less talking and just work this through. Our next two pieces, this is a candle holder that it's just a little bit different when you flip it. You may have wondered why I'm such a stickler for cleaning every piece before you get started, and that's because you really aren't going to have much chance. Well, I put that in the spot where it doesn't touch. You may not be able to reach some of the inner parts later on, and it's just your last chance to really get the wax out of candlestick holders and that sort of thing. Like I said, sometimes you have to make some adjustments to make sure that it's as level as you can get it. As well as centered. Last piece, this might be a little trickier. So I may move it off of the turntable now before I add that. You know, this is not, these things are not firmly attached yet. They're still able to be moved, and you don't want to have too many pieces on there, and then when you go to move it, have it all topple on you. And which I failed to do properly, this last piece, was to make sure that I know where the two surfaces join. No sense putting the silicone down where it's not going to do any good. Alright, this, I know this is going to be a little wobbly. So sometimes, if you're concerned about that, it sometimes helps to, you can tape your pieces. All right, we'll let that sit to dry. a little bit. If it tilts a little bit while it's drying, I can kind of bring it back, and if I need to, I'll put some tape on it just to hold it steady till it's dried. So I've got a small, told you, I may have to get some tape on that, because if I just okay, that's where we're going with this. I guess our glass stopper will hold for now over there. Okay, so I think the best I can do here is to use some of these glass beads. This one's going to be another little wobbly, tricky one. I've had this votive candle holder a while. I really have tried to figure out what to do with it. I just think it's really cool. So I think I've got a solution. We're going to do this. We're going to take this very nice candle holder and put it on top. And then we're going to top it with this dark blue stopper. But I don't think I'm going to put this on today because I want to make sure this this is fitting just exactly over the opening, and that's going to require some tape, and you saw what happened there. So let's see what we can do. Just leave that alone, and we'll put this on tomorrow. So I will be back with you to show you these three pieces when they're dry again, and I'll pull out a few more tabletop pieces to give you some examples, and that'll be it for this time around. And by the way, I love your comments, even the snarky ones. I love your comments, and I love the feedback, and I hope this gives you some ideas. This is the indoor stuff that you can have grouped on a table somewhere near a window, or anywhere that you want to have a little display. That can really be cute. And you use your imagination, and there's no wrong way to do it, All right, we'll be back with it. Well, here we have our finished 3 tabletop totems. They've dried nicely, and I think they're going to be nice additions to tabletop somewhere. Some other examples I've got scattered about that I've done in the past. So you can see there are lots of possibilities. You can get as wild and crazy as you want, depending on the pieces. And then our repair job on the birdbath, which was this joint right there. So that is our collection of tabletop totems and the 3 that we just did today.